We have a major Spurs trade update as a report has just revealed that the San Antonio Spurs are linked and showing interest in the Toronto Raptors' Chris Boucher, a 3-and-D big man who shows some incredible athleticism, an incredibly high energy guy, would immediately be one of the Spurs' better three-point shooters off the bench. We have to dive into the exact report, what it said, Chris Boucher, his stats, and the impact that this would have on the Spurs front court, and specifically Victor Wembanyama, all coming up on this episode of Spurs Digest. But before we get into the video, as always, guys, you know I got to do it. 75%, 3/4 of you watching this video are not subscribed. I know you guys, you're the loyal subscribers, don't love that I ask for this in a lot of videos, but we're seeing so many new faces on the channel. I gotta let you guys know we got all the latest Spurs news, rumors, reports, stuff just like this every single day. So if that sounds good to you, hit the subscribe button down below. It's completely free. Let's dive into this. I'm excited for this one. I think you guys will be too. Let's dive right into the report. Now, this will be linked to the article in the top of the description. Please go check it out. This comes from Matt Moore of Fanside. He said, two teams interested in Toronto's Chris Boucher, who has a very quiet six-man of the year case. Maybe, we'll get into the stats in a bit, are the San Antonio Spurs and the Denver Nuggets. The Spurs are ready to upgrade their non-Wemby minutes at center, and Denver desperately needs more rotation players. And if we take a look at Chris Boucher's stats on the season, they're mildly impressive for a bench player. Like, he's 6'9". You saw those clips rolling. You saw those clips rolling of Chris Boucher rumbling down the floor, playing some good defense, jumping a passing lane. He can also protect the rim a little bit, even though his steal and block numbers aren't amazing. The .6s are everywhere in this graphic, but the 10 points, 5 rebounds a game. But the big thing I wanted to mention to all you guys is that he's shooting almost 4 threes a game, which other than Wemby would be the most of any Spurs big, really, right? And he's shooting them at a 36% clip. Now, is that a little below league average? Yeah. Is it below the Spurs team average three-point percentage? Yeah. But the thing is, right now, other than Wemby, really, the Spurs don't have a legitimate threat from beyond the arc. And Chris Boucher, in talking to Raptors fans, of course, Ben Rogers of Raptors Digest, a lot of you might know who he is. Maybe you don't. Raptors Digest got well over 30,000 subscribers. Go check it out. Part of this same network. He's the one that started it all. Ben was saying, basically, Boucher's one of the streakiest guys that you'll ever see, right? Some nights he'll shoot 3 for 5 from 3. Some nights he'll shoot 1 for 4. And that's actually been well reflected in his recent games. But I think this does mean something very interesting for the Spurs. And I'll get into what Matt Moore actually said in terms of the Spurs getting some other center minutes and the non-Wemby minutes, because I don't actually think that would be the case if Boucher were to go to San Antonio. Stick around for what I mean. But first, I want to dive into Boucher's last 5 games, because this gives you a little glimpse into that inconsistency, or what we like to call streakiness, right? We don't call it inconsistency. It's just being streaky in Chris Boucher's game. So as you can see, like, he only has 2 blocks over the last 5 games, but the rebound numbers are good against the Cleveland Cavaliers in a close loss. Like, you could say the best team in the NBA, probably. He dropped 23 and 12, and he was a +10 in a 6-point loss. He shot 9 for 14 from the field, 5 for 8 from 3, followed that up in a game against Detroit, 4 for 5 from 3. Game after that against Golden State, 3 for 5 from 3. And then he only took even just 1 in their game against Milwaukee, in a game that he was asked to be maybe a little more defensive. He had a couple minutes on Giannis, I believe. He has 6.6 rebounds. That's all you really need him to do. And as a power forward, as a guy logging, power forward or center, a lot of minutes there, he doesn't get a lot of fouls. You can see there, 1 foul, 2 foul, 1 foul, 1 foul, 1 foul. He's quite responsible. His plus minus across the board is quite good. And if you look at his positioning, this is where it gets interesting. So this is the play-by-play from Basketball Reference, which gives you an estimate of how much any given player plays at a certain position. And if you look under the position estimate, just there after the games and minutes played, it shows that Chris Boucher plays about 92% of his minutes at power forward, with actually about 3% of his minutes at small forward, and his on-off per 100 possessions means it's in the green. So the team is 4.8 points per 100 possessions better with Chris Boucher on the floor. He's a high impact player. And again, you look at that 3-point percentage, you look at the fact that he's been hitting them in his last few games, and then you look at the Spurs right now. I mean, just point out to some Spurs bigs that shoot the 3-ball. I mean, Jeremy Sochan's taking 2 threes a game at 28%. Keldon Johnson is mostly a small forward, though he does play power forward. At the same time, though, he's taken about as many threes as Chris Boucher, and he's at 29%, right? Boucher is shooting at a similar clip as Julian Champagnie, but taking the volume of Keldon Johnson. And you look at the bench, right? That's where the Spurs' big man issues have really shown their head. You have guys like Sandro, who's a good 3-point shooter. He's shooting 42%, but only 2 attempts a game. And he's only playing 8.5 minutes over 20-odd games, right? You have Charles Gosse, who fits that high energy profile, a bit better rim protector. He's a solid energy guy in general, right? Which also Boucher is, but Gosse just can't shoot the three ball at all. He hasn't even attempted one all season. We know Charles Bassey, that's not part of his game. And then you look at Zach Collins, who theoretically is a stretch big, but the dude's shooting 1.4 threes a game this year after shooting more and more in the past few years. That shot has just not been falling for him in the past couple of seasons. He's only shooting 29%. So to have a guy like Chris Boucher, who could immediately come in and shoot 36% from three while bringing a lot of the same elements that Bassey brings in terms of energy, in terms of effort every single night, he's like a spark plug that you can put in. I'm just going to play this video again, and you're going to see Brian Wright because he's always in these, but you're going to see those two amazing plays here from Chris Boucher, right? Look at that dunk there, hyper athletic, right? How many Spurs can do that right now? That's what I'm saying. Like, jump in the passing lane there against Detroit, and he comes right down and just little Euro step jams. So Chris Boucher in general, I think actually fits a very good need for the Spurs. Is he really a stretch big? Hard to say if you could qualify him as that, but he's kind of a multi-tool guy. Half of his shots are threes. As you can see in the graphic, 50.5% of all of his shots are threes. So he's either at the rim or shooting a three, and he also provides a nice spark of the team as well. Now, in terms of what I said earlier about talking about his cohesion, with Victor Wembanyama. Now, Matt Moore, as he said here, he said the Spurs are ready to upgrade their non-Wemby minutes at center. And I do think immediately Chris Boucher would probably be an upgrade. Though he is 6'9", he's kind of a string bean. I mean, you look at him, he's a pretty thin dude. But again, that goes back to his position breakdown. His position breakdown is 92% power forward, which is, according to my Raptors fan friend, Ben Rogers, who again covers this team every single day, he said when Chris Boucher is at the power forward, that's his animal mode. That's when this guy is at his best. And Victor Wembanyama, he doesn't play any power forward. He plays exclusively center. He's played every single minute, according to Basketball Reference, at center since he's joined the NBA, which is pretty clear if you watch it by the eye test. I mean, that's kind of what happens, right? He's your best rim protector. That's where he's going to play. What I find interesting now is the idea of not necessarily always having, Boucher be that backup five, which could be good, right? It gives the Spurs an extra element of spacing when Wemby is off the floor. You have a stretch big, and that would finally clear up the offense so that when the bench unit is out there, you don't have guys like a guy like Castle trying to drive to the rim with Bassey or Collins or whoever down low, or Collins fake spot of three because we know that he's not actually going to hit most of his shots. To have a guy like Boucher play alongside Victor Wembanyama, maybe I'm crazy, but maybe Brian Wright might pull off some genius here if this is to be believed, and Chris Boucher is actually on the Spurs' radar, which seems to be true. So I just think that is a really interesting dynamic. Two very athletic players, two wiry players who can kind of jump passing lanes, who can play every little bit on defense, but can also both shoot the three ball. I think you could see a lot of lineups with those two. I'm not saying they'd both start alongside each other. I really don't think that would happen. But what I'm saying is right now, like, Victor Wembanyama doesn't play any minutes alongside Charles Bassey or alongside Zach Collins. It just doesn't happen, right? Like, those are the two guys, but why would you run them at the same time? It kind of doesn't make any sense. These guys are coming in to replace Wemby. When Wemby comes back in, they go out. I think Boucher adds a level of versatility that would allow them to kind of not have this A or B type lineup. You can kind of mesh them, right? You bring Wemby in with Boucher for a bit, and then as you bring Wemby out, you still have a bigger guy who can shoot the three ball as you bring in maybe someone like a Zach Collins, or you could run Boucher at the five some more time. And again, he's done that in his career. You just look back to last year, he played 34% of his minutes at the five. You go all the way back to 2020, 2021, even 19-20, heck, even 18-19, the championship year. This dude was always pretty much playing center. Well, not always, but most of the time playing center, 83%, 81%. And throughout his career, he's been a really good on-off guy. Again, the numbers just show that the team is better with Chris Boucher on the floor. So I actually think this is a really, really interesting report, and I want to hear what all you guys have to say down below. I feel like this is a perfect fit, and if the Spurs can pull off this trade, I think we'd actually see this is one of those smaller moves that could really impact the way we watch the San Antonio Spurs. It'll allow for more consistent lineups. It'll allow for more cohesive lineups, and I don't know. I think I'm just really excited at the prospect of this trade, but maybe you completely disagree with me, and even if you agree or disagree, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. There'll be a great discussion, I'm sure, but well, that'll do it for this episode of Spurs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment about this whole situation, and subscribe to the channel. We're getting closer and closer to 4,000 every single day, thanks to you wonderful people. So if you made it this far into the video, 9.5 minutes, I just wanted to say thank you. Leave a comment. You know what? Leave a comment with the number one for Victor Wembanyama, just the number one down in the comments down below, just to let me know that you made it this far. I've been your host, Josh Gosse. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.